Okay, so we're back with our life. The last time that we left off, we went for like a family camping thing. Yeah, the road trip, which was cute and wholesome. I'm like a teenager now, I think, maybe like 12. So we're gonna go ahead, progress. How old will I be this time? And then summer ended. 100% sure. There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you're heading to class. Yeah, you were excited to go back. Though summer had been fun, you had taken your fill. Now you were longing for fresh excitement. A new school year was full of potential. You got dressed, not in this... what? Not envisioning? That's not it, right? Envisaging. Not envisaging? I don't know. The day before you, but contemplating what lay ahead of you tomorrow. Life was sure going to be different. You had come to think of summer vacation as the norm, but school stretched out for the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just a break in the middle. So, rather than it being different, it was kind of like a return to the normal. So, what did your normal life really mean? You considered how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids. You dimly recognized that one year the pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. You got distracted, one arm still out of a sleeve. You pulled it through and your mind was put back to the present. The season had brought about plenty of changes on its own, like Kira's visit, though that too was coming to an end today. Oh yeah, she's going. Huh, yeah, I like her. The neighborhood was about to feel a lot emptier. You finished dressing, which was good. Cove would be there any minute. You agreed to speed his mom off together. Officially, the plan was that he would come over to bring you round his house when she was ready to set off, but you both knew that she'd be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kyra's visit had troubled Cove when it first happened. It had been a sudden change, thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendency to surprise people, but once he was able to readjust, he'd been in pretty good spirits with her around. It was a relief for everyone. The next thought that crossed your mind was... Yeah, no. You couldn't wait to see Cove if you went downstairs. Sure. You bounded down the stairs, your hand gliding over the rail. You wanted to make sure that you got there first. If you didn't hurry, your moms might answer it. It was only a few minutes later when the doorbell rang. As you'd chosen to stand beside to wait for Cove, there was no delay in pulling it open. Cove was there just as you'd expected. Seeing you, he flashed you a bright grin. Hi, Evie. Hi, Cove. Come on in. Once he stepped inside, you beckoned for him to follow you upstairs. Back in your room, as you sat down in your bed and waited for Cove to settle in, as you knew he would. With the other guests, you might have offered them a seat, but you and Cove were long past those sensitive stages of friendship. Your room was familiar to him as his own. You watched as he sat down in your desk chair, his preferred spot. He rolled it closer to the bed, making it easier to chat, tweaking the angle so that he was facing you fully. Once happy with the position, he leaned in towards you, hands held in his lap. His actions weren't the only... What? My brain. Sorry. His actions weren't the ones of someone who planned on moving from a spot anytime soon, even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When's your mom leaving?
Don't worry about it.
Wow. Prompt, huh? We've got time. She's still got to shower and stuff before she goes. She didn't want me to just keep hanging around while she was doing that. He lifted his head, his gaze drifting out through the window, and chuckled. I can't believe she's already leaving. Just when I'm getting used to her being there every day. He leaned back in the chair, a wry smile tickled his cheeks. She'll be back. He cocked his head thoughtfully before shrugging. He ran a hand through his hair before shaking his head, as if shaking off the topic like a dog whipping water following a dip in the sea. Cove perched an elbow on the chair's arm and propped his jaw against his curled hand. There was a natural ease to his movements, a familiarity from the echoes of all the times when he'd sat in the same position. This was a really nice summer. Yeah, I'm glad we got to spend so much time together. Cove, still nestled cozily in your chair, smiled at your response. How are your fish doing? What did I name the little tiny one? Zippy? I don't remember. Really good. Things in the tank are stable and everyone looks healthy. That was nice to hear. You learned from Cove how hard it was to maintain an aquarium. Zipsta has been busy. Keeps darting between the plants and now and again when I walk by like a game peekaboo. Or hide and seek. Yeah. Cove idly glanced out of the window. He gave a resigned sigh. It's gonna be harder to surf, you know, with school. It's getting colder out. I don't want to get rusty. Yeah. Surfing's cool when we can. It's too bad we can't make the most of the waves, but there's other fun stuff to do. He gave a light smile coupled with a shrug as a response. Evie, Cove. The sudden call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You'd nearly forgotten the world outside your room. From the guilty look on his face, he had done the same. Just a call. Just had a call. Cove's mom's ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the mandated motherly smothering to a minimum. You doubted that, but it was nice that Mom and Mrs. Priest could have their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you headed downstairs together. With each step on the way, there was a painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tensed, leaving the house, and he froze altogether before you could cross the street.
Oh.
The door is open. Dad must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. She's really on leave. Aw. Yeah, you smiled reassuringly. You weren't sure what to say or how else to react other than being there to support him. His bottom lip quivered and he turned away. Thanks. At that, some of the conflict wearing his face eased a bit. Together, you went across the street and inside of his house, finding his parents in the living room surrounded by his mom's packed things. Hey, kids. Good timing. I just called the taxi.
Hi.
And hi, Evie. So glad I get to see you today. It was fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put a face to the name I've heard so many times. She winked and Cove pouted on cue over the teasing. Yeah, I hope you had a good time visiting. I really did, thank you. Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile, and then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, he squirmed to break free from her grip, but his mom was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cliff looked like he was bursting with pride, and then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened on her hold enough to study his face concerned. She spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant just for her son.
What do you think?
Do you want to unshelve it? Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong? Cove sighed and his gaze flickered over to you for a moment. And then just as quick, it was back on his parents.
It's okay.
It's alright?
Really?
Are you sure? I don't want to do it now. I could tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange with the growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were there. You wondered if you should offer to leave when Kyra gave Cove a pat on the head.
All right.
You can always call me if you want to be part of the conversation, okay? I'll call. Thanks, Mom. Cliff still looked baffled about what Kyra and Cove were referring to, but he watched as his shoulders slowly relaxed. You figured that he decided to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. And with Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After that, it wasn't long before the taxi arrived, rolling up in front of the house and in a clear view of an open door. Kyra stood up, smiling sadly. Well, that's my ride. Yeah. The matching reply got a chuckle out of Kyra as you had both filed out of the house. Father and son went with Kyra's bag in hand. Once outside, you spied your family waiting by the street. And to your surprise, Derek was also with them. I forgot about Derek. He stood uncomfortably, and he waved as soon as you noticed him.
What's up?
Hey, Evie. Hi, Cove. When did you get here? My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. Thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time. Sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. He kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking that your mom would be leaving today. I'm sorry, dude. What? You're not interrupting anything. You're always welcome here. It would have been sad if I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving. Derek came to hang out often, so it was inevitable that the two had met at some point this season. I think so too. It was apparent that Derek would have preferred to have gotten there at a more opportune moment. He never liked seeming impolite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself. Bye, Derek. It was fun getting to know you. Bye, ma'am. Is there anything I could do to help? Nah, don't worry yourself over that. We're just about set. In that short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags in the trunk. Kara took one last look at everyone inside. Alright, I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out. The little crowd that had formed around started their chorus of farewells and well wishes traveling, but Kara still made no move to get into the taxi. She placed her attention on Cove. I'll call when I get to the airport and when I make it to Nevada. Also, you better call the moment you walk in the door home, otherwise we'll all be wondering all night if you got in trouble on the way there.
Can do.
I could do that. And could you call tomorrow too? So I can tell you how school went? Of course, I want to hear all about it. Kyra put a hand on Cove's head and affectionately ruffled his hair one last time. Then she let go, only to move on to squeezing his cheeks in her hands instead. Mom!
Cove.
I love you so much, baby. Okay. She was chuckling by the time she freed him and rounded things off with a small tap to the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed his face with a grin. Finally, she walked to the car while waving and took her seat in the taxi. Cliff took an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad and then wrapped an arm across his back. Bye, Mom. Bye, travel safe. Kyra rolled down the window and stuck her head out of it. She waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff. See you again. Before she was out of sight, you decided to wave goodbye. As the taxi headed down the road, you stuck your hand out in the air to send her off. The cab turned down another road and completely disappeared. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps out into the empty street, still looking in the direction that his mom went. He smiled quietly, deep in thought. You got the impression that he was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mom put a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled when you looked at her. This was a great vacation, huh? Mm-hmm. Yep, let's just nod. Yeah, it was a good one. Cove walked back over to the group, still genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomingly, and everyone else there smiled at him, even Elizabeth.
Well?
Ma clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I think I'll put on something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan and Mom smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? Your mom's exchanged fond expression. Ma shook her head.
How sweet.
That's very sweet, Derek, but it's alright. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors. Mom laughed a little over her own joke. You watched Derek look away, discouraged.
It's okay.
It's okay, I don't mind. He was a little bashful about it. You wondered if Mom's joke had just reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring it down. Ma tried again to get things moving forward. Why don't you kids go have fun? You can all come back in about an hour. We'll make enough for everyone. Mom nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
Another stunning idea, Lonnie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. They smiled the same, Derek and Cove's dad. That sounds like a plan then. I don't want to cramp your style. I've got some stuff to work on, so I could be out of your hair this afternoon. You should come by later, too. No reason you should be the odd man out. Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile.
Thanks very much.
He appreciates the invite, guys. You're welcome. He looked over at the assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can help, too. With as many people as you're feeding, that's going to be a lot of food. Do you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we're the ones who are inviting you in. Ma raised an eyebrow when Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist. Derek would be missing time with his pals. This would be a break for me. I'm quite the chef. Ma and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged.
True.
An airtight argument? Well, if you're sure, we'd be happy to have you, Chef Cliff. Cliff's grin widened and seemed more hyped than you'd expect him to be about helping with lunch. Cove shook his head, a fond smile on his face. Then all of us grown-up people will be heading inside. I assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out? Maybe not all of them. Yeah, Elizabeth. Ma tilted her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
Alright.
I'll stay with kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Both your moms smiled at her, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. Let's hold on for a minute. I'm gonna just turn that off for them. Okay. With the plan decided, all three parents waved and headed out for your house. It was just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked to you and the others, a curious expression on her face. So, what now? You silently wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into work. That makes sense. Then again, she could just be genuinely wanting to hang out. You can't tell with your sister. Cove spoke up after nobody else did to answer her question. Want to go down to the shopping street? It's been a while. I don't think there's a lot of other things we could agree on. Yeah, sure. Sounds awesome to me. Unlike you guys, I haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me. Okay, let's do it. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive, one of the conveniences of Sunset Bird. Therefore, you looked around at the familiar shops, trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was the most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well. That's so cool! He ran over to a street musician who was currently doing a card trick for a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face. What does it take to perform here anyway? Do you have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who would even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Mrs. Mayor, can I pull a rabbit out of my hat? Please, Flopsy is well behaved, I promise. Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene. Maybe there's a boss of a shopping street. Nobody does any of this around my neighborhood. Just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here I'm pretty sure people are just putting on their little shows whenever they want and do whatever. That's so neat. Will we be allowed to do something too? Cove laughed and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do? Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found it's a possibility, you know? But there's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure if we think about it, we could plan a show that really get the crowd pumped. Yeah, you gave a look to the other two. Derek continued to brainstorm out loud about different potential performances, while you glanced over at Cove and Elizabeth. I mean, I could bounce a soccer ball in my head. Last time I tried a guy, he bounced it before it fell. I wouldn't bring a ball here. Why not? Cove cast to everything around. The stalls, the people, all the colorful chaos that made up the shopping street. You'd want to chase a lost ball here. What if you hit somebody? Even if you're good, someone else could bump into you. That's true. Derek thought about it some more, then he watched over another performer, a woman doing tricks with two small dogs. One was fluffy and cream-colored, while the other was a cool gray. The woman held up rings. Both animals jumped through the openings, happy to retrieve a treat at the end. Derek brightened. Maybe I'll teach crabs how to race. Crabs. It could work. With some amusement, the gang continued to peruse the stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangling, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at. Cove picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought it had to be Greenland. You know this is a world with what looks like 9 continents? I think you're both wrong. What? You know this is a world with what looks like 9 continents? I think you're both wrong. I'm saying now that. Yep. Suddenly, Cove froze. You stared at him when he tried to see... Oh, you stared at him and then tried to see what caught his attention. When you saw a familiar face down the way, it all made sense. Ooh. Jeremy, that little bitch. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in a kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. He slowly drifted his eyes down the street and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned and Cove sighed. Neither of them seemed happy to see him again. I wonder why. Look away? You didn't even want to start with Jeremy's shenanigans today. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. He simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into the crowd of people. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not going to start anything. He peeked over at Elizabeth with a tiny smile. See? That was a mean kid. Huh? She still didn't get it. That first summer day hadn't nearly made as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek. But he smiled and waved it off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed and Cove smiled lightly. He seemed in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Your eyes wandered over to where Jeremy disappeared. You hadn't forgotten the date that you met him either. He was only going to be in town for a vacation with his parents that he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you'd ever see of him. Something in my heart tells me no. Yep. I feel like he's gonna come back sometime down the road. Yeah. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you'd spaced out. Cove and Derek were already at the next stall. Come on, unless you want to get left here. You nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What were you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, but let her drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. You couldn't help but wonder, though, what would have happened if you would have interacted with Jeremy some more? You were glad that you wouldn't find out. Jeremy was unlike anyone you had ever met before. Yeah? I think it's kind of sad, yeah? You and the group moved on from the stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to return to the joking. You all enjoyed what time you had left, as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by and lunch must be waiting for you. Derek bounced on the balls of his feet. Come on guys, let's get going so we can eat. I'm starving. Okay. Yeah, home bad, here we go. Cove stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. He looked at him appraisingly. Can you carry me? Hey Cove. Yeah? Can you carry me back home? What? His smile said he was amused, while the lilt of his eyebrow was full of disbelief. I want a piggyback ride. And you're the only one big enough to give me one. Okay, he sighed and shook his head. Elizabeth and Derek became a chorus of laughter. Come on, Cove, it'll be fun. Alright. Cove stepped over towards you. He looked like he couldn't believe what he was doing. Your lips quirked into a large smile. Yeah, thanks. He carefully crouched down in front of you so you could climb on. It wasn't hard to hop on. He slipped his arms under your legs and did his best to lift you. It was wobbly, but he managed to stand all the way up. Elizabeth watched with a smirk on her face while Derek laughed even harder. It was fair to say that your antics were entertaining. You were glad Cove went with it. He carried you home contentedly. Other than a few good-natured jokes at your expense, he didn't complain. He made it all the way back to your house without putting you down. What a strong fellow. It was a pleasant walk home, and in no time you'd made it back. Derek got the front door and held it open for everyone as you each moseyed inside. The 3 parents were still in the kitchen. They looked up and waved. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back, everyone. You made it just in time. I hope you're hungry. When Cove brought you inside, the parents couldn't help but notice the odd conveyance. Your moms were unsure, and Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow. Did you pull something, Evie? I'm okay. Ah, Cove, you've gotten so strong. What a reliable two. What a guy. Cove rolled his eyes at the commentary and then started walking towards the couch. You bent down and you let yourself plop back on the couch. Thanks for the lift. He exhaled loudly, shook his arms. He just seemed relieved that he made it. So, did everyone have a nice time out? She gestured for the people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been pulled out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you, and Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right. Yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, the bank heist went off without a hitch. Your joke got some chuckles around the table. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat in the empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and the other kids. Mom set down a platter full of water glasses on the table. She looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we've had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down to the other side? Make sure you all get one. Sure. Those close to the cups obliged and started offering waters around. As everything got set up, Ma chided Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table. And you shouldn't slouch. She pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about the sudden intention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and Ma gave a level look at her. You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either. Elizabeth groaned, long suffering. Ma giggled and Mr. Holden chuckled. There's a lot you could learn. A lot of you could learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed, but it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his force gracefully. His table manners, on top of all of his attempts to aid your parents, made him the model of meal attendee behavior. It's nothing. It's true, though. You've been a lovely guest. I've noticed that, too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller. And do you have anything good to say about your other guests? She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk. Or is there just nothing to say? Well, Cove is my number one, but he still does clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. That's not that bad, though, you know. Cove frowned at that and absentmindedly brushed his hands on his pant legs. Your mom's laughed lightly. Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove's hardly a guest anymore. Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. I'm just gonna keep quiet. The parents had made an excellent lunch. You took another bite and minded your business. Everyone ate their meal together and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, you and the others played a couple of games and talked about plans for the upcoming year. The time passed quickly, and it was soon time to part ways. Mr. Holden talked to your moms, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as his dad finished up, he'd be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today. Yeah, bye. Could you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized he was standing in front of where the receiver was placed. He stepped out of the way, shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. Your sister made a beeline for the phone and started dialing the number of what you figured was one of her friends. Knowing Elizabeth, she was going to be on there for a while. You, Cove, and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells. See you later, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see ya. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Evie. I'm gonna hug him. You stepped forward and spread your arms wide. Cove only had a moment to react before you encircled him in your arms. He hugged you back tightly. His chest rumbled as he laughed. Seriously, dude, we'll have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left soon after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house and Elizabeth was still chatting to her friends on the phone. It was just you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in front of the house to wait for his dad to pick him up. You decided to keep your guest company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. That's what I thought. I was wondering. How'd he, pass the baton to me? A light summer breeze blew you through your hair and Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked at the ground distractedly. Dad's still gonna be a while, so do you want to go for a walk? Sure, I don't mind. The two of you walked down the street again, just wandering without a destination. It was a quiet stroll, too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him when you noticed he wasn't saying a word. That was unusual. He always had something that he could chat about. You weren't sure if you should ask. Somehow you ended up at the park near the beach. You glanced over to Derek, still expecting him to say something any second. However, nothing came from him. In fact, you noticed a frown creeping on his face. He smiled when he realized that you were watching. At least his mouth was turned up. There wasn't really anything that felt happy in the expression. He turned away and the smile fell. His eyes stared intently at the ground and you raised an eyebrow. Yeah, is everything okay? I'm a little sad. It's just, with school starting back up again, it's going to be harder to visit. I'm going to have homework and clubs, practices, and everything else. It really sucks that we go to different schools. His face screwed up and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? No, channel some optimism. We'll make time. Yeah, exactly. We could talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. It'll be okay. He looked up at the sky and it was orange and purple with little wisps of clouds scattered around. A plane flew high with a jet stream trailing behind it. And then he turned to the ground again. His face was lilted far enough down that it was hard to read its expression. Hey Evie, I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. There was a pause and you waited for him to finish his thought. I was just wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with somebody who was a boy? Sorry if that's weird to ask. Why is that weird to ask? I can be with a guy. Okay, then he hesitated before finishing his question. Is he gay? Is that what he's saying? Or does he like me? So what I mean is there any guy you think is kind of, cool that you like around here? Not school or anything like that. He ducked his head further. You thought about it. Oh, God. There are a lot of guys I think are cool. Oh, Derek shrugged and then started to mumble and wonder. Maybe you don't get what I'm trying to ask. Oh, no. Derek pulled himself together. Somewhat meekly, he looked at you while he tried to project confidence. His posture was too tight for you to believe in it. He was nervous. You know, thinking ahead and everything's important. You've got to get yourself a game plan and all that. It's good to make plans, especially backup plans. He babbled all full of energy and forced gusto. Well, anyways, I heard this thing about people that make pacts together and they're good friends with that. Wait, what? My brain? I heard about this thing where people make pacts with their good friends that if they don't find anyone else, then they get together. Together. Like if they get married and stuff. So I was thinking, since it's good to have plans, it might be cool if we, did something like that. His eyes widened and he started to make frantic hand gestures. Just, so that we would never have to worry about the future or finding someone. We could set, a whole decade in the future, forever from now. We'd have graduated high school, probably college too, we'd have jobs, we'd be really grown up. I mean, we'd probably have our own places, maybe our own pets, and student loans, and cars. He babbled on for a while. It was as if all the words he held in silence during your walk had burst out now all at once. So yeah, what'd you think? Do you like me? Of course I like you, but it's not. He had to pause, desperate to find a way to explain himself. Well, you don't have to worry about that kind of thing now. It's better to worry about all of that later when we're grown up. That's why it's a good idea to have a plan, And well, honestly, I think you and me will work out best for that. So, I will think about it. It's kind of a decision for just being put on the spot. Yeah, sure, don't worry about it. It was just an idea. Thanks for hearing me out and answering my questions and stuff. You felt a little worried that Derek wasn't happy. When he saw your face, he smiled encouragingly. I promise I'm not mad, I was just wondering. Okay. I'm sure that things will be okay in the future, no matter what. You just nodded. He didn't spend much time longer at the park after that. Derek wanted to miss Dad, so you both made your way back to the street. After Derek went home, you decided to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room and the phone were free. Huh. I'm gonna take it easy. You flopped onto the couch. You wiggled into your position just right. You knew when it was perfect. And all the exhaustion from the day started fading away. Sighing contentedly, you were pleased with this end to the day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw that there was only about 10 minutes until your moms would be insisting you had to go to bed, so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs out on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the hands stretch 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling restless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure out on the hills. It was Cove. When the surprise faded, you realized it wasn't actually that much of a shock at all. It was exactly something that Cove would do. Yeah. I ran off to go see him. Fuck yeah. Cove, hi. Sprinting, you reached the front door in record time. You didn't think you'd see Cove again that day. You had to go to him. Wow. Oh, the fireflies. How beautiful. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They drifted along lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned towards you as you approached, and you noticed right away that he looked happy to see you. Hey. You had a bounce in your step. You weren't sure how long you'd get before your moms roped you back inside for bed. Hey, what are you doing out here? Nothing, not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. I guess I was feeling kind of weird about stuff, so I'm getting some fresh air before bed. Yeah, nod. His mouth pulled into a bent smile. He let himself fall back onto his butt, and then all the way down so he was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. You sat on his chest? No, I'm gonna lay down too. You lowered yourself to lay back on the hill. He'd been lost in thought, or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself, but he started speaking unprompted again. I'm sorry for being kind of awkward when my mom was leaving. Surprised, you stared at him for a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted you to know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things, and it's okay now. You were genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a small smile to your face, but your thoughts quickly wandered back to the day you first met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? From the way that Cove talked, you guess he hadn't. So there was more Cove and his dad to talk about, but it was a relief to know that they had made a start. Now was not a good time to bring it up. You couldn't wait any longer to say it. Oh. What? Am I going to tell him about the money thing? It was almost unbelievable how much of an impact he made on your life just by moving in. You couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you, waiting for a response, and you had no idea what to say. Then, still without a word from you, he shook his head strongly. What? It's you. Huh? He snickered before answering. He looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's what you do all the time, so I'm being you. What? So do you. Really? Yes, always. He couldn't help but grin at that. Honestly, there weren't many people that you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning his smile, you realized that there was no denying that you two have been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before it could fully settle. Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. With a final wave, he headed home, but you stayed there for a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to a simple statement. See you tomorrow. No matter how much time was changing around you, there were some things in your life that always seemed to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing with thoughts about the future. You felt excited. I'm excited to get older in this game. There was a little doubt in your mind that things were moving forward, and you couldn't wait to find out what changes were waiting for you on the horizon. Slowly, your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wishful thoughts. But no matter what happened next, you could only hope that you'd make the most of it. You were ensnared in a dream when a noise from the outside world jostled you. You snapped your eyes open. The light clatter continued. Now that you were more alert, you could distinguish it was a tapping sound. Quiet, slow, but persistent. Each beat was like being poked. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow and looked for the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out. It was from the window. With that, you knew exactly what it was. From the color of the light filtering into your room, it was too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It had barely hauled itself over the horizon, but it didn't stop some people, it seemed. You sat up in bed and opened the window wide. Cool air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as it pushed into your room. And just as you'd expected, it was your neighbor crouching on your windowsill. He was fully dressed, though not for school. He was wearing a wetsuit and a fun smile. Hey, Evie. You stared back, blinking. So, technically we won't be back to school for a few more hours. His voice was delicate yet deliberate, each word careful with a careful explanation. Classes haven't officially started yet. So, do you want to hit the beach with me one more time this summer? Oh my god. Always. Yeah. His smile widened affectionately. He's so cute. What a good kid. You rushed to get changed into something suitable while Cove climbed down back to the ground level. Your limbs, still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them in a swimsuit, but you still got there in the end. Soon you were tiptoeing at your front door, clutching a towel. Cove was there to greet you. Your eyes met. His gaze darted towards destination and back to you. You checked the door was closed, gave him a thumbs up, and the two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path ahead, Cove beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you dared. If anyone in your family looked out and saw you, then your summer would be back to being over. One glance at Cove told you he was exactly the same, holding back snickers for fear of being heard and caught. The towel streamed out from your armpit like a cape. You were running so fast downhill that simply keeping your balance and tumbling down was a real threat. It wasn't enough of one... What? Sorry, my brain just reset. It just wasn't one... It wasn't enough of one to make you slower your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer and the day a little brighter. What lay ahead of you for tomorrow? What lay ahead for you would arrive, and you were happy to meet it. Cutscene? Ooh, in between. What does this mean? Oh god, okay. I'm gonna change my hair. I have locks, pigtails, scrappy, buns, ponytail, sleek, round, short, wavy, twist, bun. Let's do wavy. Yeah. Okay. Rosy cheeks. Hand size. My lips are thin, thick, thin, thick. Oh, I have earrings. 100% I have earrings. How many options do I have? Oh, that's cool. I like the hoops. Sure. I like skirts. I have no braces. And then... Oh. I'd like jewels, sure. Nail color, plain, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. Let's... Oh. Let's do pink. I have pink hair. Oh, you have a little nose ring. Let's have no nose ring. I can't change my anything there. Cool. Done? Done. Sure, we'll change it to crush. And then I think that she's still pretty relaxed. Okay. Oh, nah. Which initiative level would you like Cove to have for step 3? Middle? Okay. This is what I've been waiting for. Okay. The start of classes into the relaxed, free days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back into the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't nearly around as much. With school and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take the trip out to your neighborhood. Sometimes you'd hear that he was at a training camp or something like that, but you weren't always sure what he was up to. No, we still kept in touch. The Jeremy kid did disappear after the summer, and no one heard from him again. Where he went, or what he might be up to, was a mystery. That'd be so funny if Elizabeth ended up with him. More summers came and went like the waves on the shore, coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird, a sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend Cove made due to them both being ocean obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you. Someone close to Cove had to be a good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Terry was tight with another girl who you had known distantly from school a long time, Miranda Eckert. You saw more and more of her as time went on, thanks to Terry and Miranda's own outreach. After a while, all you developed a real friendship together. As for your home life, the Peasies also had developments. The changing laws and public perception countrywide made it possible for your moms to openly wear their wedding rings without questions. Although they had their wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the U.S. That was a good day, to say the least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She no longer worried about perceived childishness as she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again, although most people used Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was a lot for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Liz never let you forget her role in your life, though, and kept in touch. Cove's relationships with his family improved over the years. Kyra visited several times after that summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer with his dad than ever before. You knew they talked more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before it could start. However, Cove grew into someone no one would call social. He kept to himself, usually. He cared for the few connections he did have, but didn't reach outside of them. Outdoor and physical activities still had his heart and his body. At this point, he developed real skill. Many people thought that he had what it took to become a pro. Cool. Matured affection. Things have shifted between you and Cove. You'd been friends for years, but the closer you became, the more you felt for him. You don't view him in a purely platonic way anymore. It was strange to look back on it all. The future faded into your present, and then it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life couldn't last forever. You felt the most poignantly the day that you inevitably graduated high school. Ooh. It was over and you would not be going back ever again. From now on, what came next was your choice. You'd be directing your own life. That was where you were currently. The summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. What used to be a reprieve from the typical was now going to be your first step into adulthood. Oh. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene. The whole family having a meal together. Ooh, Liz! Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full-time for a couple years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was off semester for her. Hello. She just wanted some snacks. Some snuggles. Can you go? You are. You heard. What do you need? Okay. Hold on. Can you go? Careful. Okay. Oh. Okay. You want to make sure that she was in town because you had also graduated high school. So who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future? You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over a comment Mom made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname is welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she'd moved away, you felt closer to her than you had in a long time. You idly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. I'm still a vegan. The meal you had reflected that. Your moms were happy to make food that fit your needs along with dishes for themselves that didn't. Though you often made your own food nowadays anyway. But it wasn't only for you who had a diet that excluded certain things, as Liz had been a vegetarian for a while. Okay? Oh, they got older. They look tired. Conversation had gone idly without you taking in the words until your ears were peaked when Ma started a bit of town gossip. So that's how I heard the news. Oh, they have their wedding ring on. Cute. Alright, stop burning the lid and tell us, what is this so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out, the Donalds won't be running out the condo up the street as per Sons of Birth tradition for the first time in what's been 2 decades. A chorus of gasps and shocked expressions were had all around. After the initial shock of your eyebrows pinched. Ma may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell. Yes. Ma continued on with the story, spreading strawberry jam over a piece of toast. They've decided to not make big trips anymore. Friends and family will be visiting them at their home. That's nice for them then. Have a good summer, mean grandparents with no grandkids, away from us. Aw. I hope they're okay, even though they are mean, though. Yeah, they're old as shit. They've had a very full life. It's nothing to sneeze at. And you be nice, Liz. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles with the joke. At least I won't be here to yell at my children anymore. Pfft, Lonnie. And that blunt comment got together from all three of you. Got laughter from all three of you. Engrossed in the conversation once more, you continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. What's happening? 3rd time's a charm? I think I'm gonna stop here today. I'm gonna save. And we'll pick this up the next time. Because I've been playing almost for an hour now. So I will catch you in the next one. I'm very curious to see what Cove is gonna look like and how our interactions are gonna go now that we're finally out of high school. But if you like it, leave a comment, subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, bye.